Okay. We
I'm
should be
waiting.
live. We'll wait a minute or two here for everything to kind of sync up, but welcome to our first live stream in what, 4 or 5 years, something like that. Um, yeah, we'll let this kind of sync up
I'm waiting.
and see. Oh, you got to mute that.
Yeah,
Oh,
I did.
okay. All right, so I guess we'll start off here. I'm not sure if anybody's watching yet, but welcome to the live stream here. This is, as I was mentioning, the first time we've done this in quite a while, so please bear with us and me especially as I kind of fumble around and navigate kind of running the live stream here. But Tom and I were talking, and we wanted to get together and just kind of talk about the Choyong LC90. I got one of these a month or two ago and did a review video on it, and Tom wanted to see a little bit more about it since he doesn't have one yet, and figured we'd go through it a little bit. I think Tom might have some questions. If anybody watching has some questions, feel free to put those in the chat, and we'll try to go through those here live on the air with you. But if you're not familiar with the LC90, it's basically a shortwave radio, fully functioning shortwave radio, and also an internet radio. And for me, internet radio is something a little new to me. I haven't played much with that in the past, but it's interesting technology where you can connect directly from the LC90. You can connect to streaming radio stations that might also be broadcasting in your area, or you can connect to podcasts or internet-only radios. So you have a lot of options for listening, as long as you have a Wi-Fi connection. You do have to connect this up to a Wi-Fi, or I do believe you can add a 4G SIM card to this, and it can be its own kind of cell phone-based radio, or work on the cell network is what I'm trying to say, with its own connection. If you have a subscription and a card to put in it, you can kind of do that. So that's kind of handy, I guess, if you're in a very remote area where you don't have access to Wi-Fi, that kind of a thing. But yeah, so I guess that's what we're planning on doing today. Hopefully you'll enjoy the live stream. Again, we haven't done this in a while, so bear with us. And neither one of us are experts on this radio, so keep that in mind when you're watching this. So Tom, can you just give a quick introduction about yourself and your channel and that kind of a thing?
Yes, I've been doing videos for 12 years now, and about 5 years ago, Rob and I got together because we were both doing similar shows and did a couple of shows like this one. And then Rob got really busy at work, and so we had to stop doing that. And he's got some time now, so he invited me to try to do it again. And I came up with the idea of reviewing the radio that he talked about, that he has reviewed. I was very excited about the review he did. And the only thing that prevented me from purchasing one myself is some of the comments he made about the radio part. I'm quite interested in internet radios. I've had several in the past. The first two I had about 5 or 6 years ago, and they dropped the service, so the radio was useless. And I got one, I think, this year, and I had a problem getting it to connect to my Wi-Fi. Otherwise, it worked great, but inconsistently keeping it connected to the internet was just a real problem. So that's why I was really excited about Rob's review of this radio, and I'm trying to decide whether I want to go ahead and purchase one, although there have been rumors for 6 months or more that they're going to come out with a new firmware version that corrects the radio parts. And so I've been on the fence. And so I'm hoping that Rob will answer some of my detailed questions about this radio.
That sounds good to me. We'll go through it together, and see if we can help out Tom. Like I said, I'm not an expert on this radio, so I may fumble around to figure out how to do what Tom wants to do in real time. But I think that'll still be a good demo, because if you've got this radio and you haven't used it, it'll kind of give you an idea of what you've got to do to kind of fumble around with it. I'm not new to it, but I haven't messed with everything. So we'll see how it goes. And I also apologize. I don't have a good way to aim the camera at this radio, so I'm going to be holding it up and kind of fooling around with it that way. But let's see how it goes. So, I mean, like I said, basically it's a normal radio. It looks and feels like a normal radio. Right now, I've got an external antenna connected up. Now, one thing I pointed out in my video, and Tom probably remembers this, is that the external antenna jack, especially if you're going to be using this on shortwave, it does have a built-in FM antenna, and I think it's got a built-in AM rod like a regular radio. But if you're going to be listening to shortwave, you're going to want the external antenna. But one thing that's a problem, especially for me, is I'm using my ham radio antenna, which is out in the backyard. So I've got my regular coax connector with the PL259 and an adapter to adapt over to the 3.5 millimeter plug. But one of the problems with the radio is you can see the plug is very close to the tuning knob. So if you have anything bigger than this style of adapter, you can't plug it into the jack. Or if you do get it in the jack, the tuning knob won't turn because it's like interfering with the body of the connector. So that's what I've got here. I've got this kind of weird adapter. This is like a headphone adapter or splitter. That's why there's an empty jack here. But it does work to connect up, my outside antenna so that we can listen. So that's kind of the basic premise of the outside of the radio. Now, obviously we can, turn it on. Right now it's on an FM station. So if I kind of tune around, we can hear stuff, although I'm in the basement. So it's not going to be picking up FM all that well, probably. But I can tune around and try and find something that's not playing music. If I go down at the bottom of the band, maybe we can find there.
To drive off.
So there's
Another
a station.
Police officer would spot the vehicle minutes later and stop the suspect on East River Street.
That's pulling in FM.
It was stolen
And
from
just
green
Yeah, so it is working.
influence of
The
alcohol.
FM is working through the external antenna right now, so that's good. And I'd say that station's coming in pretty
The witness
strong.
was convicted in the 29
And it's, I don't know, 20, 25 miles away or so, if that's the station I think it is. And one other thing is, if this is receiving on the FM broadcast, if it receives the RDS data from the station, it'll tell us the call sign or, whatever the radio is or whatever the station is transmitting. You will see that. So, I mean, like I said, basically it works like a regular radio, but it also has the internet radio function. And again, it's kind of hard for me to show this without getting a bunch of glare in the screen. but if we want to get into the
bands does?
Oh, go ahead.
What bands does it cover?
It covers, let's see, if off the top of my head, it covers all the way down from long wave. So I think around 150 kilohertz at the bottom end. And it'll go all the way up through the shortwave band, up through 30 megahertz, I believe. And then it also covers airband. I don't think you can get low band VHF on this, like 6 meters or anything like that. So kind of typical shortwave radio stuff, but with airband and FM broadcast. So like I said, so the basic radio, and then one thing that's kind of known about these radios is the radio part of it works fine for casual listening, but for a super DX type situation, the radio has got a few things that are lacking. It's not quite as sensitive or selective as some other options, and also, and I haven't experienced this too much myself, but some people say that with stronger signals you can get images. So you might have a strong signal broadcasting on one frequency, and you're tuning around in another part of the band, and you're hearing that station. So I think they have a little work to do with the firmware, like Tom was saying. So this one I haven't upgraded yet. I don't know if there's a newer version of the firmware for the one I have right now, but I know that the developers are actively working on that. So, you can check the Choyong website. Now, I forgot to do this before. I can make my screen a little bigger so you can see better. But I mean, that's kind of the overview of the radio. Let me take a look at the chat real quick. Let's see. We've got Jim from Trumbull. How you doing?
What power options does it have?
Oh, power. You can. It's got internal lithium batteries back here, and there's a screw cover so you can get at them, but you shouldn't need to take them off, right? Or you shouldn't need to take them out. You can charge the batteries through the USB-C jack that's on the side right there. So it works kind of like that. But if you ever had to change the batteries, like if they failed, you can get at it. But you don't need to do that normally. And I don't think you could like take those out and put like normal batteries in there or anything. It's designed to work, being charged through the USB-C port. Okay, so let me just go through the chat real quick, Jim.
So it has no AC adapter.
No AC adapter. So Jim from Trumbull is here. Good morning. I'm in Tolland County, so not too far from you. And we've got Real Froggy from Boston, also not too far away from here. And DJ Mutes from Jamaica. Okay, so we got some representation around the globe. All right, so that's kind of the basic overview of the radio part. Now the internet part you can get at by pushing the menu button. Well, there's actually a couple different ways that you can get into this, and I'll try to turn around and do this like this because I can't see it well through the camera. But the way I usually do it is by hitting the menu button, and then you have to wait a second. Maybe I didn't push it hard enough. There it goes. And so in this case, and I really can't show this well in the camera. It's not showing it. My review video is much better. But you get the menu, and what it's showing us here is different regions, so different continents, really. And so you can tune that way, where you can look for a station by region. So, of course, we're in North America, so I've scrolled down to that. And to navigate, you use the tuning control, and then to enter, you push in on it. And then I can scroll down and find my country. And, of course, I think USA is the first option. But if you were in a different North American country, you could choose that. And then it'll go in and it'll find now a list of genres. So again, you can't probably see this in the screen, but it says music and news, so on and so forth. But then if you scroll down, it now has a list of states. So if you were, you could go to your state and find a station. So in my case, I'll pick Connecticut. And then now I've got a list of all the streaming stations, radio stations in Connecticut. So I can pick one here. This is probably an NPR station, so it's probably not music.
How big is the screen?
There's
27 years
so there's what
of
it sounds like
living
over the
home care
internet.
throughout New
The
England.
screen, I don't have my ruler, but I'd say it's 2.5, 3 inches square, roughly. It's a little bit wider than it is tall, so slightly rectangular, I guess. So maybe, 3 by 2.5, something like that. I've got to have my glasses on to read it, but my eyes are getting bad from over 30 years of staring at a computer screen 10 hours a day. But you can see, and you can't see the detail in this lousy camera, but you can see the information about the streaming station there. It tells us what it's playing and some information about kind of what's going on there with the station. So you can also, not only can you get streaming stations, you can also get podcasts. You can look for those as well. And if I remember right, we can do that by pushing, there's a podcast button right here. And that'll shortcut us into the podcast menu. And then there's a search, so you can search for a particular podcast if you want to. And in fact, one of the kind of neat things about this radio is that it has a voice search. So you don't have to fiddle around trying to type something in with the keypad or, navigating some kind of text blocks with the tuning control or, whatever like that. So you can navigate by searching. So I'm on the search now, and again, you can't see the screen. And it's waiting for a voice prompt. Okay, so now it wants me to push the tag button and then start speaking. So if I look for a podcast, let's see if we can find one. The only one that comes to mind right now is NASCAR podcast. Dale Jr. Download. What does that say? No result. Let's try it again. Let me go back to the podcasts. I'll go back into search. Oh, I have to long press it. I didn't do that. Dale Jr. Download. You have to hold the key while you're speaking. That's what I did wrong. Okay, and now it found some results. It's got the Dale Jr. Download, so then I can click on that. If I hold that just right, you can almost read the screen. And now it's loading the latest podcast. But you can also scroll through and find older ones if you wanted to.
And there's always work on each end to be done, and I maintain that.
So there it is. So that feature works pretty good if you know your. Let me get rid of that. So if you know what podcast you're looking for, that's the way to kind of search for it. But just like the radio stations, you can also search by genre, that kind of a thing. So you can kind of scroll through and find new podcasts if you're looking for something new to listen to. Let me see. There was a question in the chat. Does it have an artifact when in internet streaming receive mode? No, I don't think so. It's been, every time I've used it, it's been really nice and clear and crisp. And that's one of the nice things about this radio is it has a really good sounding audio. It's a pretty small speaker. It's a pretty small radio, but it sounds a lot bigger than it really is. I was using this out in the garage the other day, and it sounded great, out there while I was kind of working in the garage and the driveway and going back and forth. I didn't have any trouble hearing it, and I didn't have to turn it up super loud either.
Is there an easy way to have it show you shortwave stations that are available?
Shortwave stations that are available, not over the air, I don't think.
Okay.
If you go into, let me see.
Like for instance, China Radio International.
So if you want to do that on the internet side, you can do that. Not over the air, but if you're looking for broadcast, so let's look for that. Asia, China, and then I'd say, I don't know, is that maybe a new, it's now classified by genre, and then now if I scroll down, you're not going to be able to see that, but there's Chinese characters. So if you can read Chinese, it might be helpful.
No.
But if we do news, it's the first one, CNR-1, China News Radio.
There you go.
Right? And then there's
Good.
Chinese characters there too. So if you can read Chinese, that's helpful for at least for that selection. So if
How about BBC?
click on that, that's definitely come up for me before. Let me this is loading, so we'll let it load.
Okay.
发展的典范，也为推动全球开放合作、维护国际公平正义
So there's China radio. So let's go back. If we want to find BBC, we would go to Europe. And we would go to the UK. That's the first selection. And that would also be news. Oh, actually, hold on. Yeah, there's BBC Radio 2. But even on the menu before that, I clicked too fast. But down at the bottom, it had BBC options. So that's pretty prominent. But if I go in there, we can start streaming the BBC right away.
Feel like they were part of a community. They weren't different. There was other people experiencing what they'd gone through.
Yeah. So again, this is a pretty cool thing, and I haven't spent a lot of time with the internet radio, but you can find all these stations that say band conditions are bad that day. You want to listen to the BBC or something, and you're not receiving it over the air. You can just go in here and get it, and it's crystal clear, assuming you've got good Wi-Fi, right? That's kind of the drawback to the internet radio, is that you need the Wi-Fi in order to listen to these stations. But if you've got it, all these stations are available any time of the day, regardless of propagation and that kind of a thing. But if your Wi-Fi goes out and you want to listen to the shortwave, you can do that too. If you've got an outside antenna, like I do here, you can tune around. I don't know. It's a pretty neat unit, and it's fairly easy to use. You've got to spend a few minutes with it, kind of learning the buttons and kind of seeing what they do. But I'd say after 15, 20 minutes of kind of just using it, you'll be able to kind of understand the navigation and all of that, and it'll work just fine. And you don't have to worry about typing anything. If you're trying to search, you use the voice search. And honestly, the voice search, it's a little bit hit and miss. Sometimes it works pretty good, sometimes it doesn't. But I think that's another thing that they've kind of worked on with some of the firmware updates, is they've been training the voice search. And it's my understanding that it actually uses ChatGPT somehow to do the voice interpretation, so it knows kind of what it's searching for. So that could be a good thing, that could be a bad thing, depending on how you feel about that.
Does it have other functions like Bluetooth or a music player?
Yes, you can connect to this through Bluetooth, and I've done that. I don't remember exactly how to set it up right now live, but if you've got your cell phone or some other device and you want to use this as a streaming speaker, you can do that. So you would just kind of connect to it like you would any other Bluetooth device, and you can stream right to it. So let's say you want to listen. This doesn't have, say, like Pandora or Spotify built in, at least not yet, that I've found. So if you want to use that from your phone or a tablet or something, you can stream to that and use this as a speaker. And like I said, it sounds pretty good. And it does have a music player. So if you're somebody that has like MP3 files on a card, you can insert the card in the bottom, and you'll be able to kind of access those and play, whatever is on the card from there. So even if you've got like things you've recorded on your computer and you put them on a card, as long as it's an MP3, you can get into the player and play it that way. That kind of a thing. So that's kind of handy. I don't know that a lot of people do that anymore, but if you do, it's there. What else?
I assume that the display, I'll say, stays on all the time.
I think it goes off after a while.
Can you change that?
I think there's a way, but I'd have to remember. There is a settings button. Yeah. So there's a settings kind of button up here at the top, and there's a bunch of settings in there. And yeah, I found it right there. So right now mine is set to always, and of course you can't see that, but I can click in there and I can change it. It looks like it's either always, and then the next longest time interval is 120 seconds, and then you can do it as short as 10 seconds. So if I change that to 10 seconds and just get out of settings and go back to, say, FM, we can wait and see if it shuts off. We can just see what it does. And yeah, that would save the battery life. Or if it's dark, yeah, there, see, it shut right off. So if it's dark, you're
Okay.
sleeping or something and you want the light off, you can do it that way. Or
Yeah.
obviously it'll save the battery if you do it like that. I don't know how much it draws
Exactly.
the battery, but it's something you can do.
Yeah, reason I asked that question because when I'm learning how to use the radio, I like to have the display not go off at all, which you showed that it does have that option.
Me too. And I think that's probably why I had it set to always on, because I like to keep it on.
Does it have a sleep? Does it have a sleep timer?
I think it does. Yes, there's a button on the top. You can use it as an alarm or a sleep timer. So it's got a playtime limit. Right now that's off also. So if you turn that on, you can change that. It's got from 10 minutes up to 300 minutes. Or, continuous play, turn it off like I have it. And then you can do like an alarm. It calls it schedule power on and off. But you could go in there and set that so it would come on or off at a certain time. And then it does have an alarm clock as well. So you could put this by your nightstand and use it for, use it for an alarm if you wanted to. You can wake up to the BBC.
How heavy is it?
Geez, I don't know. Maybe around a pound or two. It's a little bit heavier than it looks. Of course, this thing was weighing it down a bit, but maybe a pound or two. It's a little heavier than it looks, which in a way is good, because I think sometimes these radios are a little light, and especially with this aspect ratio, on the desk, if it's light, it'll want to tip over real easy. But this one, it's got a little heft to it, and it's probably from the battery mostly, which is at the bottom. So it keeps it a little stabler than it maybe otherwise would be if it was lighter. But personally, I don't like this form factor of radio. I'd rather have it shorter and squarer, because I'm clumsy. So even with it like this, I'd knock it over eventually, I'm sure. But it does fit, it fits nice on a windowsill or something like that in this form factor.
Yeah,
One thing it's missing.
It would be nice if it had a kickstand.
That's what I was just about to say. There's no kickstand, but I'm sure somebody out there has already come up with some kind of 3D printed file, for some kind of base or something that you could set this on and have it like at an angle or whatever. So I would look on Thingiverse or whatever. If you've got a 3D printer, I bet you there's something for this already. A stand or some kind of
How long is the telescopic antenna?
Let's check it out. I'd say my desk is about a little less than 3 feet, maybe something like that. So good length. And it seems like it's fairly well made, although it is a little thin at the top, to be honest. So you probably have to be a little bit careful with it so you don't bend it. But I mean, that's the case for any radio, but it seems like it works pretty good. And it pivots around like any other radio. You can kind of do that. So if you're trying to get, some kind of FM broadcast or whatever with that, you can angle it, especially if you've got this on a windowsill where you can't move the radio around. You can articulate that like any other radio. But
does it have RDS?
Yes, it does. We're probably not going to see it down here, but I can try to find a stronger station that I know broadcasts that and kind of show it. But you can't really see the screen in my lousy camera anyway. So even if it grabs it, you're not going to see it. Oh yeah, it's doing it now. So right above
Excellent.
the frequency, you can see some words, and it was scrolling.
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah. It's oh, there it goes. And there's stuff at the bottom too. See the scrolling now, down at the bottom. You can't read what it says, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But that's all RDS data, so that's kind of neat. Not every station around here has or broadcasts it. Some of them just broadcast the call sign and that's it. But some of them have other stuff.
So are there any problems with the audio when you're like on shortwave? Are there any noise problems or interference?
Not so much interference, but I will mention, let's see if we can do this. Let me go over to shortwave. And okay, so I've gone over to shortwave, and it just happens to be in the 40 meter ham band right now. And by default, when you, I don't know if this is going to kick us off or not. It says my call ends in a minute, so I don't know if Google Meet's going to kick us out. But when you push the shortwave button, when you first push it, it goes into AM mode. If you push it again, it then goes into sideband. So now it's in sideband, and we're getting some noise, so I apologize for that, but I need to turn the volume up so you can kind of hear this. If I tune around, you can hear the muting, hear the chugging as I tune. So what happens is it mutes the radio as it tunes, and then when it lands on whatever frequency, it brings the audio back. And as you're tuning around, it does that repeatedly. And that's kind of a common thing on a lot of shortwave radios, as I'm sure you know, Tom. Especially the digital. Whoops. Okay, sorry about that, guys. My meeting stopped. So let's see if we can get Tom back in here. Oops. Okay, maybe Tom will check his email and join us. I didn't realize that thing had a time limit on it. So I apologize for that. Let me check the chat while we see if Tom joins back in. Let's see. The voice capability would be really handy for other radios, especially those tiny SI4732. Yeah, I agree. Those things are hard to use. I've got one of the kind of older versions, and I say older, it's probably only 6 months old, but I know the newer ones that have come out are a little better. But still, I agree with you, Jim. The voice control would be real handy for those small ones. But I don't know how much circuitry that takes up and if that would make the radio much bigger. But I'd be willing to have a little bit bigger radio for that voice control. But yeah, let's see if Tom joins back in. I sent them an email. Like I said, I haven't done this live streaming stuff for a number of years, and I didn't use Zoom because you have to pay for that now. So we tried Google Meet, but I think I set the meeting up for only a half hour and it kicked us out instead of just letting us go beyond or something. So I'm in an instant meeting now, and I tried to invite Tom, but I don't know if he got the email, so I'll try it again. Okay, I don't know. We'll see if that sends him an email and that he can join in. But anyway, even if I end this, hopefully this was helpful for anybody watching or anybody watching in the future. Let's see. There's also a new firmware version that gets a control screen on your computer, version 2.28. Okay, I'll have to look into that and see. I haven't played with my mini radio since I got it. So, okay, looks like Tom might be trying to join back in. Let's see if he gets us here. I'm not sure. See if he can join the link on that. It shows that he accepted it, but yeah. So that's the Choyong LC90. I don't know if anybody watching has any more questions about it or wants to see anything. We can kind of go through that. Otherwise, if you got other questions, I can try to take those. If not, I'll try to I'll wait a few more minutes to see if Tom can join back in. If not, we'll pull the plug here and I'll try this again at some point. Like Tom said, I've got a little more time on my hands now than I did in the last few years, so I'm going to be trying to do a little more live streaming. Hopefully it'll go a little better than this one did. We'll try to get better with each one, but that's all we can do. So yeah, I guess I'll end it there unless anybody has any other questions. Feel free to put that in the chat. And if there's nothing else, I guess thanks for watching and watching me kind of bumble around with this, and like I said, it'll get better as time goes on. Okay, I guess that's where I'll end it. 7-3, and thanks for watching.